Justy, welcome to the Entrepreneur Next Door. It's a pleasure to have you all the way from Poland. And a shout out to all my Polish friends. We've talked before. We turned this on, and I have my Polish roots, and you happen to be in my father's hometown, which is pretty exciting. So thank you for
Yeah.
being here.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
So I usually run through a whole bunch of questions about your childhood and how we can understand your background and how you got to where you are today. So maybe we'll speed it up because we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about when it comes to marketing.
Hmm.
And even though the show is called The Entrepreneur Next Door, um, what you do is critically important for any business, for sure. But in terms of what you do, you're an entrepreneur just like me. So we combine the two and we talk about the solopreneurship and into what it is that we do that impacts our clients and other people. So, uh, just out of curiosity, when you were a young girl growing up in your teens, did you think you're going to wind up doing what you do today? Because you have a degree in a Bachelor of Engineering in
That's correct.
Spatial Economy, which I admit I don't know what that is, so you tell me, and then a master's degree in Strategic Management. So, did you really think you'd wind up taking that in school as you were growing up?
No, that's a beautiful question. That is a wild kind of story. Because when I was a kid, I wanted to be a translator. I wanted to like be this person that translates boring like documents from Polish to English. And the reason I wanted to be that was because my parents or like my family just kept on talking about this one cousin that I had, and they were just glorifying her. So I was like, I want to be her. I want to be glorified like her. So I'm gonna be a translator. But then as I grew up, I realized that this is probably not the best business to be in. And when I graduated from high school, I thought, okay, there was this notion that tech people are making a lot of money and they're wildly successful. But I was really, really bad at maths. But I thought, okay, let me just go to a technical university right here in Białystok, actually. Because why not? Yeah, sure, I can do it, right? Like I'm bad at maths, but I can do this. So I went on and I did the spatial economy kind of master's, or sorry, engineering degree. And I know it sounds very exotic, but essentially what it is, it's planning cities. I don't know why I did that. It was just the easiest thing to get on with my skills back then. And I feel like this is exactly where I had to be at that time, because I remember very, very vividly this one faculty where we had like some 3D designing, some kind of designing, something like that. And I kind of felt like, yeah, design, making things appeal to people, that is something that I really feel that does something to me. Um, so I kind of explored that within myself, and I somehow I ended up being in some sort of like a students association, and there I was asked to do social media for one of the brands they collaborated with, and that's how I ended up in marketing. That was in Warsaw.
Mm.
The brand was XTB and it was like Forex, so that was like also completely foreign to me. But I ended up in marketing and I loved it so much that I thought, okay, this is my calling. This is what I want to do, and that's when I switched my studies to strategic management. And yeah, from there on, I was completely hooked on marketing, completely
Yeah.
obsessed with marketing and business.
So, since you have a master's in strategic management, um, to me, and I've been doing obviously Whitebeard, I've been doing marketing for a long time. One of the, I think, the most misunderstood, misused words in our profession is strategy, right?
Mm,
So,
yeah.
how would you explain strategy to a 8-year-old kid?
8-year-old kid. Oh my gosh, this is a tough question. I don't know. I'm not good at talking to kids, but I think what I would say is, strategy is uh, anything you do to achieve your goals. So if you think of something, if you want to have that toy that is in that store, you have to think about all the steps you need to take to get that toy. So you will think about probably that you need to get money. So you will think about how to get money. How much money do you need to do that? How are you going to get to the store? All the steps that you need to take to reach what you want to reach.
Right.
How did I do?
Perfect. You could be a kindergarten teacher or middle school.
Okay,
That's
nice.
it. So, um, so, um, so in terms of your first real job, I'm gonna put quotes on real job. What did you learn from it? What was one of your big takeaways?
um Yeah, I remember my first like real job was when I was hired as after I was an intern at this forex company. I was hired as a marketing specialist, and I remember very intensely how the sales and marketing team was always in a constant fight. Like, marketers and sales people, it was just like a cat and a dog. This never worked out, and I was always wondering, like, why is this happening? And yeah, and then I went down the road of really making friends with the sales guys, over at the other cubicles. And since that moment, when I started talking to them, I realized how much knowledge they have about like what I actually need to know to do my job properly. Because back then, marketing was very fuzzy, very floaty. Everybody was like making fun of us. Oh, there are these creatives, walking around eating fancy food. I didn't want to be recognized like as this. I wanted to do something meaningful, and I knew that in order to do that, I needed to make friends with them and get to the information that they have.
It just reminded me that the first time I came across your posts on LinkedIn and I started to
Hmm.
read them, I was literally like pounding the table because you were saying things that I've been saying for a really, really long time. And you just hit on one of the other aspects that attracted me to marketing. Well, what I wound up in marketing, I wanted to be a psychologist. And so
Mm.
my undergrad was in psychology. Then to get a PhD in the US as a student, I didn't have the money. So I decided to just make a little left turn and go to marketing. To me, marketing is really all about human psychology. To this day,
Yeah.
I feel very strongly that that's what it's about. Um, but what you mentioned was very interesting. So in the corporate world, probably even today, the marketing and sales functions are always finger pointing at each other. They're at odds,
Yeah.
right? So if you go to salespeople and you ask them how come sales are low, and they'll say because marketing is shit and the leads we get are worthless, so we can't do anything. And if you go to
Classic. Yeah.
marketing and you say why there's no growth, and they'll tell you that the salespeople are shit because they're not closing any of the deals, right? We give
Yeah.
them everything they need, and that's consistent. So this was one of the things that I was burnt by early on in my career, and so I decided to seek positions that allowed me to control both. If you look at my resume, it was always director of marketing and sales, then vice president of marketing and sales, and executive vice president of marketing and sales. I didn't want to be in a position where I would have to fight somebody, that I was able to control the marketing and the execution through sales and customer service, by the way.
Yeah.
And that worked really well. But that was really interesting that you pointed it out. Um, so I'm going to quote you a lot because some of the things you say are so insightful, and we could probably talk for an hour on each one. But I'll run through them. So here's something you said, and I'm going to look at my Apple Notes, and I apologize for looking away. Here's what you say: you have a lot of ideas and thoughts in your brain, but if they stay in your mind, they're just clutter. This makes you fuzzy and insecure. Take time to write and visualize your thoughts. You will get 10x ROI, right?
Hmm.
And that's an observation you made because you work with the people you work with. Are they mostly startups, founders, or you also work with established businesses? Because that could be very typical to startups, and for sure, right?
Yeah.
But I has found that this is applies to any business.
Yeah. So I typically work with startups. Well, I always say I work with startups that grew from 0 to 1 and got stuck at 1. So they're past this, PMF kind of journey, and they're looking for ways to expand and scale, and that's where a lot of confusions happen, a lot of frustrations happen, because whatever worked to get them from 0 to 1 will not get them past or beyond 1. So 1 million ARR, for example, let's say. And yeah, so yeah, primarily working with those, like, not early stage founders, but a little bit beyond that journey, and not first time founders. So it's easier for me to
So
say who I'm not working with. Let's put it this way.
yeah, so you were throwing a couple terms like ARR, which is annual recurring revenue. So maybe
Hmm.
some of your clients are in the software as a service business because that's where subscriptions are,
Yeah,
the blood that flows through their veins.
yeah,
And we know they first run like hell to go get as many subscribers as they can, right?
yeah,
And then they get to a point where it kind of plateaus and you say, okay, so that's the one, right? Now, how do you
yeah,
get in? So you
precisely.
tell them you've got a lot of ideas, but if they stay in your head, they're just clutter. So what's an advice you can give to someone, maybe just one, um, that experiences that where they are sort of stuck? There's a lot of places to go, and that's where understanding strategy maybe comes into play, right? How do you pick the one that's going to get you off the one?
Yeah. So what I do always with my clients is I just really focus them on their ideal buyer. And I know it might sound like very obvious to a lot of marketing leaders and professionals, but this is not something that is obvious to these people that got stuck at 1, because there are just so many things that they have to, juggle, and there are different roles, and there's like expectations from the investors, and like there's a lot of things going on. So they just forget about this one person, this one specific type of a person that really brings money to the business, right? So I always start conversations with my clients about that, like, who is your ideal buyer? Just tell me a name. If you imagine your ideal buyer, what do they look like? What's their face? What's their name? And then I try to take them on the journey of how this ideal buyer ended up buying something from them, right? And it starts like I really try to go or reverse engineer the steps as far back as possible to the origin of this demand for their product. That's why I have this methodology that I call the Big Bang methodology, because the Big Bang is the origin of this demand. And this is the only thing that I do with my clients. And this is the only advice that I give them that really flips their perspective so much that they go and do something else. They transform their marketing. They cut like they weed out all the things that they've been doing and were not delivering any results because they've been stretched too thin. They only have to focus on this one person that is their ideal buyer, that they can make happy, who they can make happy, and who are able to pay for their product, right? So this is as simple as that. This is my only advice. From there on, things roll, really.
Yeah, we use complicated terms like persona and identifying, and there's a full page filled with questions of how do you
Yeah,
get to the bottom. But for me, I like simplicity. With my teams, I always had a sign that I made for them, and everybody on the team had it in front of their screen, and the sign simply said, "Be the customer." and
yeah,
and
love it.
pushing them to encourage him to just stop thinking like the person who's selling something or servicing something. Just be your customer, understand what they think about when they are confronted with the problem that you solve as a business,
Yeah,
and what options do they have and how do they make decisions.
yeah.
And honestly, just the I came up with this term. I don't know if I came up with it or I stole it from someone in my sleep, but the term is lazypreneurs. And
Mm.
talking to customers is work. You have to reach out to
Oh
them. You have
yeah,
to find them. You have to, and a lot of people want to skip this whole piece and create this persona based on things that the marketing group imagines sitting in a conference room or or doing a remote session, and you can't. The only way you get stuff done, for me, as a traditional old timer that works today, go talk to your customers, right?
Yeah.
Talk to them,
Yeah.
and nobody wants to do it
Absolutely.
because it's work, right? Um, okay, so next thing you say, uh, a big fat, all capitals, no to shortcuts, hacks, and copycat tactics. Yet we are surrounded by self-made gurus, expert. It's kind of supply and demand, right? Someone must be buying this crap. How do we resist the temptation to be disciplined by to say no? So the piece that was yours is say no to shortcuts, hacks, and copycats. The second piece is the notes that I wrote because I said this is the stuff that I usually scream about, right? You
Mm-hmm.
wake up in the morning and there are plenty of people out there who have this magic system or course or template or hack that's going to get you off that one that you're stuck in.
Mm-hmm.
And look at me, here's my check that I get every month, all this other crap that we're surrounded by. Um, it takes a lot of discipline to say no to all these things. But yet, because there's so many of them, somebody must be buying some of that crap, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you tell people? You're saying, say a big fat no, right? How do you convince your client that all this wonderful stuff that keeps coming into their inbox or they see is not real? Those templates worked for the person that built a
Yeah.
course on it, right? So, what do you tell them? How do you get them? Because to me, this is that huge challenge for anybody in business, whether they're a startup or in established companies, right? The shiny
Yeah.
objects that constantly
Oh
blind you.
yeah.
So how do
Yeah,
you
the
get them
shiny
to
object.
just, yeah,
Yeah, how do I get them to that? Well, I again, simple things, context. Just think about the context. Does this a tactic that you're talking about that you want to copy into your business, does it fit in your in the context of your business and the context of your ideal buyer? And that again, I circle back to that definition of that ideal buyer and the story. So I really intentionally, when I start working with my clients, I draw up this story with them, really with the founder preferably, and while I'm going through this, I ask them questions like, what questions do your ideal buyers have at this moment? Where do they go to look for information? Who do they talk to? How are they influenced? And then once they see how the story rolls, then they see that the things that they've been doing and the things that they've been trying to copy from other people, they don't fit here. They don't make sense because they don't fit in the context of that specific buyer story. So I don't tell them. I make them realize that, right? So I've been doing that a lot in my previous jobs. That I've been this annoying preacher that preaches that you have to do this, you cannot do that. But I never really mm, I was never able to explain why, or I never was able to explain in a very simple human terms what does it mean and why, right? So that's why I came up with my own methodology, where I don't tell you what to do. People don't like to be told what to do. People like to discover things themselves and make decisions themselves and feel like this is their decision, right? So yeah, this is how I do it, just by showing them how it
and
doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
and it's a brilliant approach. For me, even though I'm as a marketing guy, more of a business transformation coach, but I'll never tell a client you're doing something wrong. What my initial discussion with them is, let's look at what you've done so far and let's make it better.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is horrible, but they don't want to hear it, of course. And
No.
entrepreneurs are very proud, and they've taken a risk by doing what they do, and we
Yeah.
appreciate this.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like the same mantra repeats itself. And I think one of the challenges that we face is that, and again, human psychology, they
Hmm.
are more comfortable in a narrow lane of things that have been done before, but maybe I can do it better. And my issue with the SaaS guys is that they fall in love with their tech and
Oh
they forget
yes.
the human side, right? And so just
Mm-hmm.
because you have this wonderful another AI company, right? You have another something techie that's going to make things better, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they have to
No.
answer a simple question, which for me, most of them have a problem answering, is what problem are you solving, right? So if you're not solving a problem, then you're a commodity. And if you're a commodity, you'll always live inside the one you're trying to get them off, right?
Yes, precisely.
Right? So you don't want to do
Mm-hmm.
the hard work to get off the one, and how by going out, speaking to customers, identifying their issues, and matching it. Um, so So is another question that I've come up across, and then I saw this in your writing, and it just blows my mind, right? How do you tell someone that hired you that their marketing guy sucks?
Oh, yeah. I don't say that. Obviously, I don't say it explicitly. And I,
Yeah,
to
of
be honest,
course.
I don't need to even. I don't need to point that out. To be honest, a lot of my clients decide to work with me because of that reason. Um, they um, they come to me and say like, "Hey," it's almost like they're doing that in secret. Hey, I really I have this problem because I'm a little bit overwhelmed. I don't know what's going on with my marketing. My marketing is kind of out of control, and I just cannot find a common ground with the marketing leader on my team. So uh, help me solve this problem, right? So then I just lay out like really simple truths to them, and I help them talk to the marketing guy or gal. I give them the clarity, and I give them the levers to pull, um, to feel in control of marketing again, and to have this sort of anchors to talk to the marketing guy. Because actually there are no marketing people that really suck. There is just like context. Again, they're in a different context, they're on a different level of abstraction, and all it takes is to really find a common ground and find an understanding, and really understand that you're all working on the same goals at the end of the day. So yeah, to answer your question, I
Yeah,
don't have to tell them that. I actually help them talk to these guys or gals, right?
yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have used the S word, but
It's
the
so
key,
easy to use.
it's been too often for me. Like I will not be hired by anyone because that have an existing marketing VP or director, because I mean I would objectively invite anyone, and I have in my corporate career, anyone to come in and help me do things better and see things that I missed. I welcomed it because it benefits the company.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ego in it, and so
Oh yeah.
to me, when the first thing it is, I look at the marketing as a general, and I use the word it sucks because somebody that I worked for, who to this day I admire, was my best employer. Was absolutely brilliant guy. When I was doing something he didn't like, he used to give it back to me, and he would write on it, "This sucks," and put a red line on it.
Well, that's
Right?
clear.
That I mean, that's how he got through to me. But it wasn't in a mean way. It was just his way of, shock and awe, as we call it. Um,
Hmm.
so that's an interesting way that the owner, the founder of the company, and again, in the tech world, a lot of them don't understand marketing, right? They're focused on
Yeah.
tech. Someone else is
Yeah.
doing it. It could be a co-founder, but what kind of marketing are they doing? Well, same old, same old. They just, we need to do social media. Okay, all right. So we do
Hmm.
posting. Did you look at your post? Did you look at the engagement? Did you look at anything? What does it actually make sense? Does anybody
Yeah.
care? Right?
That.
Got it.
Does anybody
Yeah,
care?
yeah. Um, so I want to go back to you. You grew your own business by focusing on LinkedIn, right? You
Yes.
find like, again, it's not a magic button. It's something that requires discipline, right, and hard work again, which people try to avoid. Um, by posting and commenting, right? You surfaced by being active on posting. Um, so one of the objections that many people who are thrown into the LinkedIn Shark Tank, right? There's so many people there,
Hmm.
that are frustrated by is it takes a really long time to sit on LinkedIn all day and do that. right? And I know you have
Yeah.
an answer that says no, it doesn't. You don't have to spend all day doing it. You have to be strategic, right? So maybe help those who are frustrated by LinkedIn. What your advice to them? Do you need a whole day? I mean, look, I'm talking from personal experience. I allocate certain blocks of time to LinkedIn during the day because it's so easy to get sucked into the LinkedIn black hole by, from one thread to the next, something else. How do we get around that?
Mm-hmm. Again, simplicity. I think, well, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but that is because I love it. And I, that's where I engage with my potential clients and also with learn from other people. So it's not like you're spending time on LinkedIn and that is your uh, a cost, right? It's really, you can get so much more than just, engaging and being out there and being seen, because um, at the end of the day, you can really do a lot of target audience research there. You can learn a lot of things about your audience. You can meet new people. You can get new clients. You can get invited to podcasts, just like I did with you right here. So um, I typically spend probably around 4 hours, including creating content and engaging on LinkedIn per day. But I just love it, and this is what
Mhm.
I do. But to get clients and to get visible, you don't need to spend this much. You probably need half of that, or maybe even less. Um, because like in the beginning, when I started my journey on LinkedIn back in November 23, so a couple of months ago, I just did a couple of posts. I wasn't posting like every day, but I did a couple of posts that really reflected like deeply what was sitting, within my heart, and that resonated with so many people, and it resonated with already potential clients that I already got leads from that. And that was really like the spark for me that, hey, I actually don't have to work that hard. It's not such a long-term journey. It's not such a big thing. I just have to say the right things to the right people, and I will attract
Mhm.
them, and it doesn't have to take a long time. So the keyword here, I guess, is be intentional. If you don't have much time, be very intentional. Think about this person on the other side that you really want to attract through your LinkedIn activity, and yeah, and just write and create for that person, and they will come
Eh,
sooner than you think.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that frustrates a lot of people, and that's why maybe they don't spend enough time, quality time, is that, we post and then we seem to judge whether it's working or not based on how many people liked it or engaged with it,
Mm.
and not really realizing that it's a numbers game, right? It really is a numbers
Yeah.
game. If you have 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, anything you post is going to get a decent amount of reactions. It's just
Hmm.
percentage wise, right? A
Yeah.
1 or 2% of 10,000 people is a good number. A 1 or 2% of, I don't know what I have, 3,000, 4,000 is a much smaller number. But to quote my mentor, who's Seth Godin, is if you have something to say, like you did, right? If you feel really passionate about a topic, then just say it. Who cares how many people clicked on it?
It really
That
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter.
No, it really
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I can give you a very good example, because I know that when I create content, then I get a lot of likes from people like me, so other creators and other consultants. And if I keep on writing or creating content that gets a lot of likes, I will end up creating content for them. But they are not my target audience, right? So I balance my
Mhm.
content with like very simple, basic marketing stuff, which I know these consultants will never engage with because this is too basic. But this is exactly what my target audience wants, right? So just last week I posted something very fundamental, and I got very few engagements, very few comments. But what I did get is a lot of invites, a lot of followers who were my ideal target audience. And I did a couple of leads who filled out my form and said like, hey, I saw your post about the waiting room idea, because I tend to like really wrap these very difficult old marketing principles into new words that are really easy to create analogy around. And then it clicks especially for technical founders. It clicks, they understand that, and they feel like, oh, I need this in my business, I'm going to talk to her. So that's just how it goes. People who are going to buy from you are never going to interact with you, but they see you and they will come to you when they're ready.
Yeah, and just as an aside, one of the things that I see on LinkedIn, and I don't know, it's just my observation. I might be wrong that it's starting to look more like a Facebook than the real business to business platform that I remember when they first came out. That still is incredibly powerful. But some of the conversations are things that you might find on Facebook. So, oh, I really like that. Oh, did you go there? Did you? For most of us who are working hard to run a business, it's sort of hard to just sit there and read through a whole bunch of dialogues that are Facebook like, as opposed to something that you post that says, okay, this is something that's probing that might get me to think about a problem that I'm having that I've been trying to avoid. But now I read something that Justy said, and it's like I always look at it as like gently poking somebody in the eye, right? Because naturally, as humans, we want to avoid anything that makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So giving it terms like the waiting room is a lot smarter than throwing marketing, you know, terminology at somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, so I
Um,
at that specific post, I really got a lot of like, people saying like, "Hey, but this is just lead nurturing, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is, but this is not how I get eyes on my content. That's not how I get leads. So I'm just wrapping it in a different words, and that's what
yeah.
works. That's when people think waiting room. They think about me and the pink background on LinkedIn. That's the
So so
effect.
that's the explain it to an 8-year-old approach where you simplify things to day-to-day terminology that somebody can say, "Oh, I get that."
Yeah,
Um,
precisely.
so uh, you had another great post that was the top 15 things that make marketers mad in all caps, right?
Those are my favorite
And
types. Yeah.
and yeah, so is mine, and I rant a lot about stuff, but I picked my favorite four out of the 15. Um, Prove to me that every dollar we spend on this will earn $10. Then I'll have no problem giving you the budget, right?
Hmm.
Happened to me when I was in the corporate world. Happens when I talk to potential business owners. Um, Sort of like the twist of things I hear is, how do I know that what you do is going to work, right? Um, so my company is really going to grow, right? Transformed and grow. By how
Hmm.
much and how fast? How do you battle this when somebody says this to you?
Hmm.
Prove to me that
Yeah,
it's going to work.
I will. You will never have proof. You will never have proof.
Hmm.
And I've been there. I've been really wasting a lot of time on making like really science level calculations and analysis to prove some sort of strange ROI. But it's it's really like going into casino and thinking that, like if you just study this Russian roulette well enough, then you are going to hit a jackpot and you're going to win it all. This is not going to work for you. This is really like you have to take risks. So there is no such thing as, you're going to get tenfold returns. You really have to learn how to take smart bets. And to take smart bets in marketing specifically, you need to, again, understand your audience and really understand that story behind why people buy and how they buy. And
Hmm.
the problem starts with the fact that a lot of founders, they spread their focus, or they're not focused at all on one or two specific groups that drive the most revenue. They think that everybody is their target audience, right? And if you do that, then your marketing is really generic and it's really easy to ignore. So what I do is I again tell them, imagine this one ideal buyer. What is their journey? We're going to do all the things that we're going to appear on all the steps, on all the touch points on these journeys, and our marketing is going to work. Then they see how deliberate that strategy is. Then they see how all the things connect, and how, that one ad that they're going to run somewhere is not going to drive direct revenue, but it really contributes to a bigger picture. So that's why I introduced this concept of the waiting room, because that the beauty of that is that, you cannot expect people to buy from you right away the first time they see you. um, and so you need to bring all your marketing efforts to a central point where these people are going to be warmed up. So your marketing should not be measured by the revenue that it generates, but by how quickly and how efficiently it can grow your waiting room, basically, right? And then also
Hmm.
how your waiting room is really increasing your pipeline. So yeah, this is how I explain that to them, and it tends to work because they really realize that people are not going to buy from them right away. They need to find a waiting room for them to stay, and marketing, it has to bring them in and also out of this waiting room. And these are the two touch points that they have to measure, and that is how successful is marketing is.
Yeah, and especially for SaaS because they have to grow their subscriber base, and
Yeah,
they have to spend on marketing. Otherwise, no one knows they exist, right?
yeah.
Um, but one of the things that I do with clients, but they're more established than startups,
Hmm.
and they said, "How do I know if we spend this money not on me, but on things that we agree need to be done, is going to work?" And I said, "Let's go through your checking account. Let's go to your credit card accounts, and let me go flag out everything, every dollar you spend on marketing today." Because
Hmm.
the first one of the things people say is we don't have the budget for it, right? That's another kind of runaway type of an
Yeah,
excuse. Okay, so let's see what you spend on today, and we actually look at all the money that they spend on marketing, some of which they completely forgot that they do. We look and said most of it is not working. So why don't we direct the money from that to something that really needs to be done? But I love the concept of smart betting, where betting is kind of like scary, but the smart betting is, yeah, if you do the right things and if you speak to customers, if you connect with them in an
yeah,
emotional level, solving their problem, yeah, it's a smart bet. You'll have to still work to get them, but the probability is much higher. Uh,
exactly.
so, second thing that I loved was, again, 15 things that makes marketers crazy. Nah, we tried this 5 years ago. It didn't work, right? I can't tell how many
Yeah.
times I've heard that. Yeah, I tried
Hmm.
marketing. I tried this, tried that. It doesn't work. Why? Well, we spent so much money on this and it didn't work.
Yeah.
What do you tell them?
Yeah. So I ask them, okay, show me the data. What exactly didn't work? I want to see that. And that already is like, yeah, we don't know, we didn't measure anything. Like, so how do you know that it didn't work? Yeah, because it didn't bring sales. I'm like, okay, but how can you expect people to buy right away from you if they don't know you, if they haven't tried anything? Like, they just met you. So that's one thing. They don't have the data to support that. The second thing is, it didn't work, but in what context? Again, the context is king. So, it didn't work, but why it didn't work? Because it wasn't, you targeted the wrong target audience, or because your product was not optimized, or what is this one area where something went wrong? And the third thing is that, or actually that connects to the second thing, is that, people always, or founders always say, like, this channel doesn't work for us, but it's impossible. And any channel, almost any channel, can work for you, and it's not the channel's fault, it's your fault. You did something wrong there. So there are many, like, what are the categories, what are the things that you can tweak, what are the categories that you can leverage to make a change, to make something work, and see which one by one, test which one could that be. And that's what happens all the time, that founders or marketing teams, they do something and it doesn't bring direct sales, so they ditch it and they never come back to that
Mm,
again. So they really lack this, like, iterating and learning. And that is the most important thing, because it never is going to work. Like, the first thing is, when you make pancakes, the first one is shitty one, always. So what, you are going to throw away the dough and, like, okay, fuck it, it didn't work for me.
yeah.
That's just that's how I would explain that.
So, since I love everything you say, I will take, because these are all things that I've confronted many, many times. And more often than not, when I look at what they've done, I say, okay, show me what you did. And then I
Yeah.
smile and say, why are you smiling? I said, the idea was great. The execution was terrible.
Yeah, right.
right? So I mean, the plan or the idea was absolute, but when you look at the marketing materials or the content, it was
Yeah.
crap. So it didn't work because it was crap. Crap doesn't work. Okay, things that sound like what everybody else is saying sound like
Yes.
what everybody else is saying, so they move on. It's
Hmm.
boring. It's nothing exciting. Okay, next one is, yeah, well, it's kind of like the same thing, right? How much revenue did we get from that blog post, right? So you're doing a blog and you expect everybody that reads it to run to you and say, "Here's my credit card, just sell something to me."
Yeah.
Same thing as we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
just like the old days, and I keep saying the old days, where, oh, if you do blog posts, you're going to rank number one on Google because
And
that's
so
the
what?
key. No, it's not. Okay. Maybe in the first day of content under Google websites, yeah, it was a key. It was important to have content on your website, but a blog's not going to get you to the number one position. Not going to happen.
No.
Um, you're so as the next one. You're the head of growth, so you're responsible for revenue, right? And I haven't seen any growth since we hired you. So that's bringing in the marketing person into the the president's office and slapping them around and saying you're failing.
Yeah, yeah, that happened to me, and that happens to a lot of people. And I think it's also the role of head of growth. This is such a stupid role, actually, to be honest, because it comes from those VC funded startups
Mhm.
where investors come in and they're like, okay, you have to scale. So you have to bring in somebody that will just, head of growth will make growth happen, like out of thin air. Um, and, a lot of marketing leaders are hired to do this job. And they try to do the right thing. So generate demand, create content, some like lay out the ground for future growth to be able to scale eventually. But yeah, it's met with like, hey, but we need to grow right now, we need to scale right now. So there's like this mismatch, and this pressure of scale right now, and doing the right thing, that is just not working. And then the expectations are being completely mismatched, and that ends up with a lot of fighting, a lot of misery, a lot of burnouts. That's just not how it's supposed to be. And I feel like this head of growth is the role that is really completely misunderstood, and maybe it should be completely canceled even, because it's the wrong expectation there.
Yeah, yeah. If you take on a position that's the head of growth, whatever fancy terminology, you're kind of setting yourself up for a miserable ride, so to speak. Because for
Yeah.
me, um, if you haven't done everything you should have done from the day you were founded until you started to see sales and you're starting to scale up a little bit, if you're not doing the right thing, waking up one morning because some of the the VCs, people that gave you money, looked at the numbers and they were not happy, and then you go into a panic attack and said, "Oh my God, we need to really scale up fast." You and I know that there's no such thing as scaling up fast. It's just that if you have something that no one in the universe has and it's absolutely perfect, then you don't need marketing. It's
Yeah.
going to grow on its own. It's fine,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But for most people, that's not a reality, right? You still have to find your target audience. You still have to make sure they see your stuff. You still have to talk to
Yeah.
them. You still have to do everything that needs to be done in order to grow a business.
Yeah.
You can't just say, we need another 10,000 subscribers in the next 3 months or we're going to be in trouble. Okay. You
No.
should have thought
Yeah.
about that in the beginning, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's another thing that I've been just thinking just this morning, that founders really often, they are like, okay, I have a great product because I managed to sell it to a lot of early adopters, right? And so I'm ready to scale. So I'm going to put this person that is going to find this one scalable channel where I put €1 in or $1 in, get €10, $10 out, and that's how I'm going to scale. But what they don't know is that, first of all, they didn't do their homework. They don't have the structure and the foundation to scale. So their house is going to fall apart at one point if the foundation is shaky. That's one thing. And another thing is that they tend to fall into the forever MVP trap. I call it this way because they just feel like, okay, our product is done because a lot of people say that they want to buy it or they bought it, so we're able to bring it to the masses. But the masses are way more um, uh, they're not so forgivable, they're not so forgiving of flaws of the product as the early adopters. They're way more demanding, they way more, like picky. So the marketing that you've done so far and the product that you created for early adopters is never going to work for the masses. And that's where a lot of startups also fail, and where a lot of startups hire head of growth, but it's too early. So yeah.
Yeah, and the people that they hire, another one of my pet peeves, but that's okay. Usually they'll hire the people that have what I call a golden resume, right? So,
Mm.
oh, I worked for Google, then I worked for this one, I worked for this
Oh,
one, and I always looked at them and I said, please don't do this, because what you don't understand is that if you're a startup company, even if you're a small business of $3 million, doesn't make a difference. Um, and I'm not knocking the people that work for Google, because Google hires really, really smart people. But if you have a $5 million budget for marketing, you're going to get success. You're not going to fail. That's a lot of money, or a million, or
hmm,
$500,000. It doesn't make a difference, right? The kind of
yeah,
numbers that we don't run into in small businesses, right? So
exactly.
someone that came from an environment where they had a huge budget, which allowed them the opportunity to experiment in different areas and then find the winners and direct more money to it. For smaller company, that's a luxury they don't have. So if you hire the
Hmm.
guy that knows how to execute on big budgets, they're going to be lost when it comes to a small company with a tiny little budget, right? So
Yes.
don't get
Yeah.
impressed with the resume. I would tell just hire people that work for small companies, because spend my entire career doing that. $1 needs to really work for a long time, right? It's
Oh
not
yeah.
like you have the luxury of that. So, and again, well,
Precisely.
we're not knocking founders as an entity. We're just trying to say, wake up. You took the risk. You left probably a good job. You started your tech company. You know the formula for success, which is, subscribers. Again, I don't know if every founder of a software as a service tech company starts a company with the goal of being sold. I'd say many of them probably do.
Hmm.
Um, and if that's what you're thinking about, then you're creating an impossible tension within your own company,
Yeah.
because of
Exactly.
because of a kind of like a selfish goal for yourself. But if you create a company because you want to make a difference and change lives and actually impact by solving a problem that people are looking for a solution for, yeah, so maybe one day somebody will buy you. Okay, good for you. You
Yeah.
deserve it, right?
Yeah, so that should not be your
Um,
goal. You really have to have a vision, and that really attracts people, people, investors. So yeah, I feel like you're really right here. Your people are, or founders are picking the wrong goals, and I really see such a big difference when I work with founders who are VC funded, and they are really like chasing this scalability versus the founders that really understand that growth takes time, and they have the ambition to build a brand that is really recognizable, and they have a clear vision that is so much easier to work with, that is so much easier to really be successful with. um, but yeah, what can we do?
yeah, so the tech companies that are software based, so the software is a service, which is based on subscriptions. For me, and I was a test case of what they're missing, right? Um, this was maybe 3, 4 years ago. I bought something that I tested and I really, really liked.
Hmm.
And I bought the annual subscription because it was a significant savings for me. And like everybody else, because we download free PDF and we do this, I actually paid for something, and it was around $200, right? Um, I completely forgot about it.
Mm.
I bought it and I
Oh, that,
forgot about it,
ouch.
right?
Mm.
And the way I was reminded that I had that and I paid for it was the email that came through that said, "Thank you for being such a great customer. We charge your credit card for the annual whatever $200 for next
Yeah.
year." And I looked and I said, "Holy crap! I can't believe I did this." Right? So I reached
Mm.
out to the company, and I didn't want to talk to just a customer service person. I insisted on going up to whoever it was, and I got to someone. And I said to them, look, it's totally on me, my fault, right? I bought it and I forgot to use it. Okay. Call me stupid. It's okay. But let me ask you a question between from one marketing guy to another, right? Um, you knew that you charged my credit card and I became the best customer you can have, right? Annual recurring revenue guy, not the monthly subscription that can jump off anytime. So I'm your best customer, right? Right. Okay. And when I signed on, you have the technology that allows you to see when did I log into your system, how long I stayed on there, right? And when the next time I log in, you have that data, correct? Correct. So no one has ever contacted me from your company and said, "Hey, you just bought something for $200. We noticed you didn't log in. Is there a problem? We're happy to jump in
Hmm.
on a call with you. Here's some a bunch of videos, startup, the things that we could use." Not one person contacted me. And so a whole year went by. Yes, my fault. But now you happily charge my credit card again. So
Yeah.
for me as a customer, for me as a marketing guy, for me as a business owner, you're a complete failure
Ooh,
because you
ouch.
took you took my money and you never cared enough to make sure that I use your product and it's working for me. And I
Yeah.
said, everything I've just said, you have the data, right? So how often do you go back to customers that purchase something, whether it's a monthly or an annual recurring? Look at the data and say, oh, it's been 3 weeks since they actually use the system. Let's reach out. This is how you and I know you talk to your ideal customer and you
Hmm.
find out. And maybe there was something that I came across that was so frustrating with your software that I just decided to just drop it.
Yeah.
And maybe that problem recurs with a lot of other people, right?
It
Because
definitely does.
the
I
word
it's a
churn
truth.
that everybody is afraid of in SaaS, the churn meaning people that bought and dropped off. For me, the reason for churn is because SaaS companies are really terrible at staying in touch with their subscriber base. I understand it
Hmm.
costs money to do it, and I don't want to get some stupid AI driven bot that says, "How are you?" whatever.
Yeah.
I want a human being to actually reach out. And you know what? There are a few companies that do this correctly, and I will continue to pay them whatever they want because I feel that I'm visible, that they care.
Yeah, that is it, like I think Seth Godin once said that, people care about brands that care about them. People love brands that love them back. And what you said about this churn and not caring whether users are using the product actually, I've seen this so many times with my clients, who said literally, I proposed something and they said like, no, 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 we cannot do this because then we're going to wake up the sleeping beauties, and they're
Giant,
going to
yeah.
wake up and realize that they're still paying us. So we don't want them to realize that they are still paying us. Let's just keep it going like this because the numbers look good then this way. And that's a sign of insecurity. And like, if you don't want to see that your product is so faulty and completely useless to a lot of people, and you're in it for the money, then yeah, that you're going to bleed. Your
Mhm.
business is going to bleed eventually, sooner or later.
Yeah, someone that mentored me years ago said something which to this day I use it. It's more of a stock market terminology, but pretty much the statement is, um, bears make money, bulls make money, and now those are stock market
Mm-hmm.
conditions, but pigs get slaughtered.
Ooh.
And to me, that's absolutely true, right? You can push your subscription up to a certain point, but there will come a point where you're going to plateau, and you plateau for whatever reasons there are, but then you can run back to the people that help you scale up and say, oh, by the way, are you happy? Right? Where were
Yeah.
you this whole time? So
Yeah,
you really have to stay
precisely.
in touch with your customer base. So I
Hmm.
have two quick questions to end. What do you mean when you say exposing the absurdities going on in marketing? I think we covered them today,
I mean,
but is
yeah,
it?
we talked only about that, I guess, in this
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. And the absurdities for us is, I think it's more of a wake up call, right? You started by saying something again. I always used to tell people that when I got my MBA in marketing, um, people didn't even know what marketing was.
Hmm.
It became another term to use for sales because nobody wants to talk about sales. So I'm a marketing guy. What do you do? Oh, I sell things. Okay.
Hmm.
It was back then marketing was sort of like, to me, people that became the cult of Starbucks. When you walk around with the Starbucks cup and what are you drinking? I'm drinking half calf, decaf, latte, schmatte, whatever the story is. It
Hmm.
was understood. Today, fast forward, marketing drives every business. If you don't do marketing, you're dead.
Yeah.
Um, but some of the absurdities that you and I are going to discuss today are really the one, still not understanding what marketing is truly about, which in simple terms it's about the customer, right? And
Hmm.
secondly, having unrealistic expectations of
That.
marketing, because with internet and all the tools we have today, we can reach the entire universe. So why aren't we doing so well, right? Just
Yeah.
press a button and people see your post. Nah, it doesn't work like that. Okay.
Hmm.
Look at the feed and see how quickly your post disappears, right? It doesn't happen
Yeah,
so quickly.
exactly.
So, all right. So this is going to be maybe a tough question, but you're in the trenches of marketing. So what's your prediction for what's going to happen to marketing in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think the most obvious prediction is that consumers, this is already happening, and I think this trend is still going to kind of gain strength, is the authenticity. Really, consumers are more and more allergic to brands interrupting their lifestyles, interrupting whatever they're doing. They are annoyed by sales pitches, or like I like to call it,
Hmm.
pitch slapping. So yeah, genuine authentic marketing, value driven marketing, human centric marketing, that, like, basic principles that drive people. This is what's going to happen more and more often. I don't like to talk about like technology and technology based trends, because to be honest, I don't really feel it, and I don't see how Apple Vision Pro is going to change marketing and our lives, and how I don't know, augmented reality is going to change a lot. I still think that even if these technologies influence us, then still the like common denominator everywhere is going to be human centricity, value, and not no pitch slapping.
I love that pitch slapping. That's awesome. It's not. I'm not going to say the word. Never mind. It's. This is really insightful for me because you said authenticity, and I think that despite the tools, despite the barrage of content that every single one of us gets hit with every day, um, I think people are getting really good at telling bullshit from authenticity.
Yeah.
And it might get a little bit more difficult with AI, where an AI engine writes your content for you. But I've been, for the past month or so, I've been really experimenting, um, testing chat versus Gemini, which is Bard, versus another product that's out there, and just giving it a prompt, and it's about content and approaches, and testing the results from all three. And from my perspective, they're not human. They're really cheesy. They're the answers and the content that you get. And shame on whoever cut and paste that stuff, because it's really not good. It
No.
gives some of it gives you good ideas. Some of it might have a perspective that's something that I didn't think about. But think about what they do. They go back to a database on the internet, and they very quickly collate the best of all the crap and they write it in a beautiful language. Um, People are really getting better at telling it. You could tell
Yeah.
when it's a bot. You can tell when um, my philosophy on LinkedIn is I'll accept any invitation to connect with anybody. I'm not picky. It's fine. My test is
Hmm.
what happens after I accept the connection, right?
Yeah.
And you could see all the bots, right? As soon as I said yes, boom. Oh, thank you so much for connecting, but here's something I want to sell you. Okay. And you really, really need this, right?
Yeah.
I think people are not, despite what we think, people are not stupid. They, they get, it's intuitively, right? By
Yeah.
being hit with so much crap, people can tell when it's authentic and when it's not. And how do you know it's authentic? Somebody did the homework and actually speak and use terminology and use the kind of language that I would use when I describe my problem, right? And that's how we
Yeah.
know the person understands.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I
Exactly.
call this, I forgot the name of the movie, but it was You Had Me at Hello. I don't know if you remember that movie. It was
Oh, never heard of that one.
maybe it was Top Gun. I think it might have been Top Gun, right? Um,
Yeah.
to me, it's that You Had Me at Hello is the authentic content that instantly resonates to me as a
Yeah.
potential customer. And I
Yeah.
said, yeah,
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
get me. You did the homework, right? Um, okay, so I think we covered a lot. Sometimes I
Hmm.
have some rapid questions, but I don't want to take too much of your time. Um, what's the best advice you've ever received when it comes to your own career, your own path?
Be yourself. This is the best advice that I've received. And I kept on receiving this, but not really. I kept on hearing this, but I never really listened. And only when I became a solopreneur, I realized what it really means to be myself. And that is to really tap into what really drives you and ignore the rest. Just focus on really what really uh, makes your heart beat faster, and find a use case for that so that people want to pay for what you're good at and what your passion is, and you're on vacation your whole life basically.
Well said. And for every 10 people that are interested, probably one or maybe two are going to become clients, probably just one, but that's okay. Somebody, people always ask me, I've been doing this solo thing for 12 years, and it's a tough business to be a business coach, transformational coach. What's the one thing I've learned in on this journey, right? And to
Hmm.
me, to this day, the best thing I've learned out of being on my own was how to pick the right client.
Mm.
And that's something that in the initial 2 years, we say yes to everybody. You know, a good client will get you to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and think about their business and how you can help
Oh
them.
yeah. Oh
Uh, a
yes.
terrible client is going to probably pay you a lot more than what you asked for, and then going to nag and annoy you every single
Hmm.
day about why things are not happening and what else can we do. Um, so you're right. I'm always very upfront with everybody, and I'm yourself. And I tell them, look, I'm not a magician. If you want me to, if your business needs transformation, if you even if you're doing really well, right, you can always do better.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight, and it's hard work. So if you're willing to go for the ride, good things will happen. Uh,
Hmm.
if you're looking for quick results, I guess there's better gurus than me out there. So
Yeah,
good luck with
there are a
that.
lot of out
So
there. Yeah.
yep. All right, Justy, this was a lot of fun. I will in my show notes LinkedIn to your include links to your LinkedIn. I encourage everybody to read your posts because they are 100% genuine, and you hit on all the pain points in marketing and running a business that people try to avoid. But you should read it and pay attention. Um, and thanks again for doing this.
Yeah,
It was a
thank you for
pleasure.
inviting me. Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun. And I felt this is one of the most authentic podcast appearances I've had so far.
Oh, thank you. Same here. I just, we're ourselves and we share what we know for the purpose of an interesting story, and people can take somebody takes one advice of one of many things we discussed, it could make a difference to them. So thank you
Yeah,
again.
I really hope so. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Zev.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.